Hi, this is Peter from URC. We're here to talk about HDA audio and more specifically some of our residential amplifiers in HDA audio. Our flagship amplifier is our HDA 8100. Now this unit can do up to 8 stereo zones of audio or up to 16 mono zones of audio or any combination thereof. You can take any stereo zone, split it into 2 fully independent mono zones. Now you think about different rooms of your house, you don't necessarily need a stereo sound like maybe a dining room or a hallway or a master bath or something. So this unit becomes very flexible. Instead of buying an extra amplifier, you can always take one of the zones and split it into 2 mono zones. Now that also brings up the question of power. If you're gonna go from using a stereo zone to a mono zone, what's the power output? Is it gonna be loud enough for everybody to hear and enjoy? Well, this is one of the most high-powered multi-zone amplifiers on the market. Each amplifier channel drives up to 100 watts per channel into 8 ohms. It drives up to 200 watts per channel into 4 ohms. Each amplifier channel is stable down to 2.7 ohms. So that's a lot of power even if you're running a mono zone. So we have our HDA 8100. It has 8 analog RCA inputs. It also has a coaxial digital input that accepts all digital formats up to Dolby Digital 5.1 and DTS 5.1, and it will downmix any of those signals into a 2-channel signal that can be sent to your entire house to other HDA amplifiers without losing any channel information. So for example, if you have a Dolby Digital 5.1 signal coming out of your cable converter box into the HDA 8100 and is coming in as Dolby Digital 5.1, all of the channels, the front, left, right, center, the rears, the subwoofer are all mixed down to 2 channels so you don't lose any content. We also have little brother, the HDA 4100. It's basically half of an HDA 8100. It has 4 stereo zones. It can also be set to do 8 mono zones or any combination thereof. The amplifier rating is exactly the same as the HDA 8100. 100 watts into 8 ohms, 200 watts into 4 ohms, and it's also stable down to 2.7 ohms. So you're going to get one of the highest quality amplifiers on the market with concert quality audio and 0 latency. That's the other thing. Because we stream all of our content from amplifier to amplifier over the network, there is nearly 0 latency no matter how many zones there are in your residential installation. We do up to 32 zones of audio. We also have our HDA I/O. This is our kind of like a Swiss Army knife device that allows you to integrate other companies' home theater amplifiers with HDA. What you would do is plug this into an input of your home theater device, your home theater receiver, and it will be able to stream any input that's connected to any of the HDA amplifiers through the home theater. Also works for doorbells. Now, since we talk about doorbells, let's talk about what these residential amplifiers can do. They can store up to 10 WAV files in every amplifier. Every one of these amplifiers can store up to 10 WAV files, and they share those WAV files with each other over the network. So we talk about doorbell interrupts. In the past, you'd have to have an external device with trigger on sensors. With HDA, it's all built into the amplifier. So if somebody came up to the front door and pressed the front doorbell button, that sound, which is a WAV file stored in our HDA 8100, will play through whatever zones in the system you want. That's true of not just doorbell sounds, but also audio cues. Audio cues are very helpful for letting you know at the end of the night if a scene runs that your house is safe and secure. If the sensors detect any doors open. They're also really helpful in a situation where you might have a relative that's got handicapped or whatever, and they need to know if certain doors are opened or certain sensors are sensing any type of movement in the house. You can program HDA to play an audio cue throughout the entire house.
It's 10 p.m. All of your doors and windows are closed and secure.
You can have it tell it's all secure. You can also have a separate message telling you that, hey, the side door's open, the front window's open, things like that. So for residential, there's a lot of uses for the WAV file sound storage inside of HDA. One thing that we like to talk about with HDA audio is that it's flexible enough for residential, but it's also designed from day one to also go into commercial. Different products we have, for example, our HDA 1600. This is our commercial amplifier. It's a 70 volt amplifier, but it's also a low Z amplifier. So it can drive both 8 ohm, 4 ohm speakers and 70 volt speakers. And it can do it simultaneously. There's 2 speaker outputs. Each speaker output can automatically detect whether it's driving a 4 ohm 8 ohm speaker or a 70 volt speaker. So there's no setup and no worry about any kind of damage being done to the amplifier based on what speaker you connect to it. HDA audio has unbalanced RCA inputs. This amplifier, the HDA 1600, also has a balanced analog input, but that balanced analog input could also be used for 2 microphones. 2 microphones that can be used for different paging events, different ducking, different announcements you would normally have in a commercial environment. All of these inputs do signal sensing. So when the inputs, including the microphone inputs, sense signal, they can switch over to the microphone, play the announcement, the microphone announcement, and then go back to the audio that was playing in the zone. So as an example, Smith, party of 4, your table is ready. Smith, party of 4, your table is ready. And then at the end of the announcement, the music comes back up and the zone is playing exactly like it was before the announcement. All of our HDA amplifiers stream to one another over the network. They use a streaming technology that gives you basically 0 latency, no matter how many zones you have in your commercial or residential installation. We do up to 32 zones of audio. So the microphone that is plugged into this HDA 1600 amplifier, where I just spoke through and did an announcement, can also be streamed to any one of our other amplifiers. Our smallest amplifier, going from the largest amplifier to the smallest one, is our HDA 130. This amplifier is a small amplifier about the same size as 3 CD jewel cases stacked on top of each other. This amplifier does 30 watts times 2 channel outputs and 8 ohms. The nice thing about this amplifier is that it can be powered with standard 48 volt power adapter that we supply, or it can be powered with PoE Plus or PoE++ coming from your switch or router. So it truly is a one cable solution. One Cat5 will be able to deliver all the streaming audio through the smaller HDA 130, but also all the command and control and all the power. It's perfect for sitting behind a television. It has a subwoofer output, so you can actually drive a powered sub with it as well to give you a nice entertainment experience. And it sits on the network with all of our other HDA amplifiers, and it stores WAV files like all of the larger amplifiers. All of the feature sets are all built into that small amplifier the same way that they're built into the HDA 8100. And those WAV files are used in commercial for announcements. They can be used for automated triggers, commercials that play automatically timed, or they can be played by person operating the system manually. So one example we have is that people are installing our HDA 1600s into fitness centers, and the fitness center wants every hour a promotion played for their place of business. So then,
did you know that the first personal training session is always free, with absolutely no obligation? Each client is individually assessed and specific fitness goals are then determined. Schedule your free consultation today.
So that example is just for a fitness center. Every hour, timed, every hour automatically, the WAV file that is stored in the HDA amplifier will play through whatever number of zones you want in the commercial installation. Any one of the sound files stored in any one of the amplifiers, they each store up to 10, can be streamed and shared with any of our other amplifiers in the system. Fitness center is one example. We also have people that use this in like commercial restaurants, different types of sports bars. And you can have, for example, if they want half-price appetizers.
It's time for half-price appetizers. Now until 2 a.m., choose from 7 delicious appetizers you know and love, but for half the cost. There's no going wrong with these late-night snacks. Make the late nights great nights, every night at Tito's.
So there's a fictional restaurant named Tito's. Every night at 9 o'clock, it plays the half-price appetizer commercial, and then people flock to the bar and get their appetizers. It's all automatically streamed from any HDA amplifier to any other HDA amplifier in the system. Within our software, these sound files can be set to be triggered at a specific time, hourly intervals, or manually like I'm doing it here through our user interface. We have also built into all of our user interfaces, and this is true for all of our touchscreens, iPads, Androids, what have you, whatever you're using to control the system, modules that allow you to easily control all the high-level functions of an HDA commercial system. For example, what I just used there to trigger the bar specials and the fitness center promotion was a module called the announcements module. And within this module, all of the different sound files that you have programmed stored into the HDA amplifiers appear here, where you can manually trigger a sound effect whenever you want. Okay, so back to sound files here. In a commercial environment, we're talking sports bar, we're talking people watching the home team, we're talking people watching baseball, football, maybe even hockey. So let's say it's a hockey town. Hometown hockey team scores. Want to get everybody excited for the big game coming up. Maybe you want to play the college fight song. Maybe you want to play something more generic to get everybody into the event. Game's about to begin. Let's get everybody ready to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
This can be very useful for a sports bar where they want to trigger a sound if the home team scores or get the crowd fired up for the next quarter of football. We also have modules that are built in to HDA to allow you to easily control all aspects of your commercial installation. So this module right here is called the volume mixer module. This gives you a flattened out view of all the different zones in the commercial installation, what their volumes are set to, what input they're selected to, and whether they're on or off. This gives you basically your own little dashboard where in the past you'd have to have an external DSP controller to do all this. We built the DSP right into the HDA amplifiers. Other modules we provide for easy maintenance and easy control of your commercial installation. We have a zone status module, which gives you a flattened out view of all the different zones in your installation, whether they're on or off, what input they're selected to, basically a window to the world of what's going on in the commercial establishment. We also have a module called input status. This tells you the status of every input connected to the HDA unit. For example, a cable box connected to any one of our amplifiers. Is the cable box on? Is the HDA sensing audio coming from the cable box? It's really helpful in troubleshooting any kind of issues you might run into. We also have an amplifier status module, which lets you look at every amplifier in the HDA system and see whether the amplifier is going into a thermal condition or it's peaking out. Just imagine in older days with legacy style amplifiers, you would have to walk into the equipment room, look at the front panel of the amplifiers and see if there's any red LEDs telling you there's a problem with the amp. That's all put onto our user interfaces in real time. So you can scroll through here, just make sure all of your amplifiers are running nice and cool and they're not distorting or peaking out. So let's talk about the HDA zone DSP. For every zone of an HDA amplifier, there's a full-blown DSP that gives you the ability to contour the sound of the zone you're listening to. The zone DSP is very advanced, and it's included on all the HDA models. So for example, for a zone in an HDA amp, you can set a high pass or low pass filter. This allows you to correct for rooms that are either too bright sounding or too dull sounding, or even driving a powered subwoofer. Each zone also has active bass, treble, bass boost, treble boost EQs that you can set inside of our software to give the room more of a bassy sound or more of a treble sound. A lot of it's based on the building materials in the room and the type of speakers you're using. Also, each zone has a 5-band parametric EQ. This is true if you're using stereo zones or mono zones, it doesn't matter. So with the 5-band parametric EQ for the zone, you get selectable frequency, selectable gain, and selectable frequency width, which is also known as Q. So that can be set in our software for each one of the HDA zones. Also, each zone has a built-in active limiter. So to equalize the volumes in the room, each zone has a limiter that you can set different limiter compression ratios, release times, attacks, and levels. There's also limiter presets that are built into each zone, and those are available on our user interface. There are limiter presets available for music, for gaming, PC gaming, for your voice, or you can even create your own custom limiter preset and have it appear on the user interface. Finally, we also have lip sync correction for every single room. Now, you really won't need it with our system, but if for some reason you want to delay the room, maybe a source is giving you a little bit of an audio delay problem, you can do from 0 to 500 milliseconds of delay for each room. And that's also controllable on the user interface. Within every HDA 1600 amplifier are 2 microphone inputs. Typically, when you use a microphone, you have to have external DSP processing, which means buying another piece of gear. But within the HDA 1600, all of the microphone processing you'll need for each microphone is built into the amplifier. For each microphone that you have connected to the HDA 1600, there's a full limiter with compression ratio, release times, attack ratios. There's a noise suppressor, which allows you to dial in the microphone to get rid of any unneeded feedback or background noise. There's phantom power for each microphone if your microphone requires phantom power, either 12 volts, 24 volts, or 48 volts. And each microphone gets its own separate 5-band parametric EQ with selectable frequency, gain, and Q, frequency width. All the processing that takes place within the HDA 1600 is then shared with other amplifiers in the system, other HDA amplifiers. So the DSP processed microphone sound is streamed over the network to any other HDA amplifier in the system, not just to HDA 1600s. Finally, on the front panel of the HDA 1600s, you have LEDs that let you know if the microphone is clipping and if you're supplying phantom power to either of the two microphones. So that wraps it up for URC and HDA audio. For more information, visit our website, urc-automation.com.